They passed him every day. Some didn't know his name, others barely looked up. Just the janitor, pushing his cart down the halls, fixing the leaky faucet, changing the flickering lights, always there, always silent. What they didn't know was that while they looked past him, he was looking at everything, every step students struggled to take, every door that didn't open wide enough, every classroom that left some kids out. And in the quiet hours, long after the last bell rang, he'd pull out a notebook, not to clock out, but to draw something up. Not a complaint, not a wish, a plan. Because the man they thought was just there to clean up was quietly building something that could lift everyone up. And when the time finally came for someone to ask, "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" he'd smile and answer with something that would change the school forever. His name was Samuel Ortiz. Most people just called him Mr. Sam. He didn't correct them, didn't mind. He'd been at Jefferson Middle School for over a decade, long enough for some teachers to forget when he started, long enough for most students to assume he'd always been there. But few knew what brought him there. Even fewer knew what kept him there. Sam had once trained to be an engineer, drafted blueprints, studied systems. He loved precision, the way every small part made the whole work. But then came the car accident. A spinal injury left him with limited mobility, enough to walk, but with effort, with pain, with a cane that classmates once mocked, and stares that reminded him every day what access really meant. He applied for countless jobs after recovery. Some politely declined, others simply didn't call back, until Jefferson Middle offered him a part-time janitor position. Not what he dreamed of, but it was something, and in time, it became everything. Because Sam didn't just see the school as a job, he saw it as a system, one where not every student had the same access, where ramps ended too soon, where bathroom stalls were too narrow, where reading corners had no space for wheelchairs, and assemblies never included sign language interpreters. He noticed, he watched, he remembered what it felt like to be the one sitting out. So while others swept past these flaws, Sam wrote them down, night after night, observation by observation. He wasn't just cleaning the building, he was mapping its broken parts. Not to tear them down, but to rebuild them better. He believed change didn't always come from the top. Sometimes it started at the bottom of the staff directory, with a man pushing a mop who also happened to be sketching a revolution. In silence, it started with a stumble. A sixth-grade student named Tiana, new to the school, new to her wheelchair. She was trying to get to the library on the second floor, but the elevator was down. Again, a substitute teacher told her to wait, said someone would come. They didn't. Tiana missed the reading contest that day. She didn't say much, didn't cry. But Sam saw her waiting in the hallway, her face calm but her hands clenched white around her wheels. Later that afternoon, she left behind a slip of paper in the main office, a formal complaint. It was ignored at first, filed away, forgotten, until a teacher saw it and passed it to the vice principal, who passed it to the district coordinator, who sighed and said, "We should really assess accessibility again." That's when the email came through. Staff were invited to submit feedback about building safety, mobility, accessibility. Any insights welcome. Most ignored it. Some joked about broken coffee machines. Others didn't bother. But Sam? He printed the email, folded it once, tucked it in his shirt pocket, And that night, he pulled out the stack of sketches he'd been keeping for years, notes scribbled on yellow and paper, blueprints marked with red ink and quiet hope, ideas no one had asked for until now. That single complaint, that single moment of being seen, gave Sam something he hadn't felt in years: permission, not just to clean up the mess, but to fix the system that kept making it. Sam didn't start with a presentation, or a speech, or a big meeting where people clapped politely and moved on. He started with measurements, late at night after everyone else had gone home. He rolled his cart through the hallways, taped a small laser measurer to the edge, and took notes. Door widths, ramp angles, the distance from the lockers to the nearest bathroom stall that could fit a wheelchair. No one noticed. He was the janitor. They thought he was checking for scuff marks, but in his supply closet, beneath the cleaning products and extra paper towels, was a fold-out table, and on it, a detailed floor plan of the school, marked with dozens of sticky notes. Too narrow. No handrail. Visual signage missing. Echo too loud for sensory processing. He wasn't just thinking about wheelchairs. He was thinking about students with autism, kids with low vision, teachers with chronic pain, parents with canes. Accessibility wasn't just about ramps. It was about belonging. And Sam knew something the architects hadn't. The building didn't fail all at once. It failed in quiet, everyday ways. Like the staff meeting room with no captioning option, the steep curb no one noticed until someone fell, the front door that required two good arms to pull. So every evening, Sam sketched ideas, improved layouts, suggested routes. He studied ADA guidelines like they were blueprints to a better future. He started small, submitting a report through the staff portal, attaching his drawings and signing it, S. Alvarez, Facilities Support. No one responded for weeks, until one Friday morning, he came into work and found a note in his mailbox. Mr. Alvarez, can you come to the administration office Monday at 10 a.m.? We'd like to hear more. No fanfare, no praise, just a line on paper. But to Sam, it felt like the beginning of something real. Not just recognition, but possibility. The meeting didn't go how Sam imagined. They nodded politely, skimmed through the first few pages of his blueprint. One administrator even smiled and said, "This is sweet. But it's a bit outside your role." He sat there, quietly, respectfully, as they thanked him for his passion and told him the budget was already set. Maybe next year, maybe never. Sam walked back to the janitor's closet like nothing had happened, but inside, he felt it, that old familiar ache, the one that said, "You're not supposed to be in those rooms. You're not the person they listen to." For days he said nothing, just did his job, cleaned the floors, emptied the bins, watched another kid struggle with the same heavy entrance door, until one afternoon, he overheard a student crying in the hallway. It was Elena, the new girl. She had cerebral palsy and used a walker, and she couldn't make it to class in time because the only elevator was broken again. Sam didn't speak. He just handed her a bottle of water, sat beside her, and quietly walked her to class. The long way around. That night he went home, opened his blueprint, and started again. Not because they asked him to, but because someone needed him to. And then, 2 weeks later, something unexpected happened. Elena's mom emailed the school board. So did 3 other parents, then 6, then 12. Not just complaints, but stories, evidence, photos, and Sam's blueprints, the ones he'd quietly shared with Elena's family. His plan, the one no one asked for, was suddenly at the center of a community-wide conversation. And this time, people listened. The school didn't change overnight, but it changed. First came the ramp, the one Sam had sketched out in detail, measured with chalk lines on his day off, quietly painted on the pavement behind the school. Now it was official, approved, funded, built. Then came the automatic doors, the classroom with adjustable lighting, the sensory reading nook he had proposed in a footnote, now a pilot program. The local paper ran a story. Custodian's accessibility plan reshaped school. But Sam didn't do interviews, didn't pose for photos. He just kept working, because to him it was never about being seen. It was about seeing others, the way he once wished someone had seen him. And the ripple kept growing. A teacher asked him to speak to her fourth graders about empathy and design. A high school student, inspired by his blueprint, chose inclusive architecture for her science fair project. A neighboring district reached out to request a copy of his plan. And every time a new railing was installed, every time a student reached a classroom with ease, Sam stood back, mop in hand, heart full, watching the future unfold, not because he forced it, but because he drew it and believed it mattered. He didn't just clean the school, he helped rebuild what it meant to belong in one. After the blueprints came to life, people saw Sam differently, not because he changed, but because they finally looked. Take Ms. Lane, a sixth grade teacher who walked past Sam for years without really seeing him. She said, "I used to walk past Sam in the hall and just say, 'Mornin'.' I never stopped to wonder what he was carrying or what he was building. But now, every time I use the new ramp to my classroom, I think, he saw this before we did." Then there's Aiden, an eighth grader who once felt like the school wasn't meant for someone like him. He remembers, "I spent my first year here feeling like this school wasn't built for me. Stairs everywhere, no quiet room, no place to breathe. Then one day, everything started changing. Turns out the janitor, he was making a map just for kids like me. Even the school principal, Mrs. Herrera, admits she didn't realize what she was missing until Sam showed her. She said, when Sam brought in his plan, I'll admit it, I felt embarrassed. He saw every flaw I missed, not with blame, but with care. That's the part that humbled me. He didn't ask for credit. He just asked, what if we made it better?" And Jules, an alum who graduated before the renovations, returned to find a school transformed and a legacy waiting in the hallway. Jules said, "I graduated before the new designs, but I came back last year to visit and the school felt different, more open, more human. And when I saw the plaque in the hallway, inspired by Sam, I just stood there and cried." Sam never raised his voice, never stood on a stage, but he changed everything because he believed everyone should belong. And in a school where he once felt invisible, he made sure no one else ever had to. Most people thought Sam was just cleaning up after the day was done, emptying bins, mopping floors, moving through hallways like a shadow. Seen but never truly noticed. But legacy doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through the hinges of a newly widened door. It slides gently across the smooth surface of a ramp where stairs used to be. It lives in the eye-level window that finally lets a child see the sky. Years later, that blueprint Sam quietly worked on, it's now a required reference across the district. They call it the Custodian's Code. a living document that centers design around dignity. He never put his name on it, didn't need to, because those who walk the halls now, those who feel the difference, they know who made it possible. And Sam, he still comes in early, still sweeps the same floor he redesigned, still greets the kids by name, knowing he gave them more than a clean start to the day. He gave them a place that finally sees them, and maybe that's the greatest kind of hero, the one who never asked to be seen, but made sure others could be. We often think of changemakers as loud, bold, front and center, but some of the most powerful revolutions start in silence, in shadows, with people like Sam, who don't demand attention, but quietly reshape the world beneath our feet. He didn't do it for applause. He didn't do it for legacy. He did it so the next kid in a wheelchair didn't have to circle the building to find a way in. So the student who sees the world differently could finally find a classroom that fits. Because accessibility isn't charity. It's design that remembers everyone. And sometimes the person we overlook the most is the one carrying the blueprint for everyone's better future. If Sam's story moved you, share it with an educator, with a parent, with someone who's ever felt invisible. And if you believe in stories that celebrate unsung heroes, that spotlight quiet revolutions, that remind us dignity belongs to all, subscribe to Able in every way. Leave a comment. Tell us who your Sam was, the one who made space when the world forgot to. Because the world doesn't change through grand speeches alone. It changes in quiet acts of care, held, sketched, and swept into place by people like him.